There comes a moment in every woman's life when she gets tired of being emotionally confused, tired of wondering where she stands, tired of giving loyalty to someone who keeps giving excuses instead of commitment. And the painful part is, many women believe the harder they love, the more likely they are to finally be chosen. So they chase harder, tolerate disrespect longer, and slowly lose themselves trying to keep someone interested. So many people make the mistake of believing that love must be chased, begged for, or constantly proven. They wake up every day trying harder to gain attention from someone who keeps giving them the bare minimum. They send long messages explaining their feelings, overthink every delayed reply, and slowly lose their confidence while trying to keep a relationship alive. But the painful truth is this: the more you chase someone who is unsure about you, the more you teach them that they can take your love for granted. A man pays attention differently when he sees a woman who values herself. The moment you stop running after him, stop demanding validation, and stop making him the center of your happiness, your energy changes completely. You begin to carry yourself with strength instead of desperation. That shift becomes powerful because confidence speaks louder than words ever could. Many women think they must constantly prove their worth to be chosen, but real value never needs to beg for recognition. A person who truly sees your importance will naturally make time for you, protect your feelings, and show consistency through actions. Love should not feel like emotional survival. It should not leave you questioning your worth every night. The strongest thing you can do is refuse to settle for confusion disguised as affection. When you focus on your own growth instead of chasing attention, people notice the difference. You become calmer, more attractive, and emotionally stronger. You stop reacting to every small change in his behavior because your peace no longer depends on his approval. That independence creates respect. Suddenly he realizes you are no longer waiting around hoping he finally decides your value. He begins to feel your emotional distance, and that is when fear of losing you starts becoming real. People naturally appreciate what they believe they can lose. If you are always available no matter how badly you are treated, there is no urgency for change. But when you establish boundaries and protect your self-respect, the entire dynamic shifts. Your silence becomes louder than arguments. Your absence becomes heavier than your presence once was. Never forget this. Your love is valuable. Your attention is valuable. Your energy is valuable. The moment you stop acting like you are lucky just to be chosen by someone, you begin attracting the kind of respect, effort, and commitment you truly deserve. A high-value woman understands that love should never cost her dignity. She does not beg for attention, chase validation, or constantly try to convince someone to see her worth. She knows that real affection is shown through actions, consistency, and effort. The moment a woman starts pleading to be loved correctly, the relationship becomes emotionally unbalanced. She begins giving more than she receives, sacrificing her peace just to keep someone interested. Many people confuse patience with self-neglect. They continue accepting mixed signals, broken promises, and emotional distance because they hope things will eventually change. But a woman who truly values herself recognizes the difference between temporary confusion and permanent disrespect. She does not stay in situations where she constantly feels unwanted, ignored, or emotionally drained. She understands that the right person will never make her feel like she has to compete for basic love and attention. Confidence is one of the most attractive qualities a woman can carry. Not arrogance, not pride, but quiet confidence rooted in self-respect. A confident woman walks away from anything that damages her peace. She does not threaten to leave for attention. She simply knows her worth enough to stop settling for less than she deserves. That kind of energy changes how people treat her because she teaches others that access to her life is not automatic. A man notices when a woman no longer tolerates inconsistency. He notices when she stops over-explaining herself, stops chasing conversations, and stops accepting excuses. Suddenly, he realizes her energy is no longer guaranteed. The woman he thought would always stay is now protecting her heart instead of waiting endlessly for him to change. That realization creates pressure because people often value things more when they understand they can lose them. A high-value woman also focuses on building herself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. She invests in her goals, her happiness, and her personal growth instead of making a relationship her entire identity. She understands that a healthy relationship should add to her life, not become the source of her self-worth. Her confidence does not come from male attention. It comes from knowing she can stand strong on her own. The truth is, begging for love never creates genuine commitment. It only creates temporary guilt or emotional control. Real commitment happens when someone recognizes your value naturally and chooses to rise to your standards. That is why a high-value woman never lowers herself to keep someone who is not fully choosing her. She would rather walk alone with peace than stay somewhere. She constantly has to beg for love. One of the most powerful things a person can learn is that silence often speaks louder than endless explanations. Many people believe they can force someone to understand their value by constantly arguing, repeating their feelings, or demanding attention. But the more you chase communication from someone emotionally distant, the less impact your words begin to have. Eventually, your pain becomes background noise because they know no matter how they behave, you will still remain available. Distance changes everything. When you stop constantly reaching out, stop reacting emotionally to every small action, and stop making yourself endlessly accessible, people begin to feel your absence. Your silence creates space for reflection. Suddenly, the person who ignored your value starts noticing the energy, effort, and emotional support you once gave freely. What they took for granted becomes visible only when it is no longer constantly present. This does not mean playing toxic games or pretending not to care. It means protecting your peace and refusing to overextend yourself for someone who gives inconsistent effort. There is a difference between healthy emotional distance and manipulation. Healthy distance comes from self-respect. It is the decision to stop chasing people who are uncertain about your place in their life. Many women make the mistake of believing that if they love harder, explain more, or become more available, a man will suddenly change. But often, too much availability removes the urgency for effort. If someone believes you will always stay, no matter how poorly they treat you, they feel no pressure to improve. Boundaries become powerful because they force people to recognize consequences. Silence also reveals truth. When you stop initiating every conversation and stop carrying the emotional weight of the relationship, you begin to see who truly values you. Someone who genuinely cares will notice your absence and make an effort to reconnect. Someone who only enjoyed convenience will slowly disappear once the effort is no longer one-sided. Either way, silence protects you from wasting energy on confusion. There is strength in emotional control. Instead of reacting impulsively, a strong woman learns to pause, observe, and protect her energy. She understands that not every situation deserves an emotional performance. Sometimes the most powerful response is stepping back and allowing actions to reveal intentions naturally. Distance creates respect because it reminds people that your presence is not guaranteed. It teaches others that your love, attention, and emotional support are valuable things, not endless resources to be taken lightly. When a man realizes he can truly lose you, he starts seeing you differently. The comfort of assuming you will always stay disappears, and suddenly your value becomes impossible to ignore. Confidence is one of the most powerful qualities a woman can possess because it changes the way people see her and the way she sees herself. A confident woman does not walk into a room searching for approval. She carries herself with peace, self-respect, and quiet strength. She understands her value without needing constant validation from a man. That energy becomes magnetic because people are naturally drawn to someone who knows who they are. Many women lose their power the moment they become afraid of losing someone. Fear causes overthinking, emotional chasing, and insecurity. They begin accepting behavior they would normally never tolerate because they worry that setting boundaries will push him away. But confidence changes that mindset completely. A confident woman knows that protecting her peace is more important than holding on to someone who cannot recognize her worth. When a man sees a woman constantly begging for attention, he often feels emotionally safe enough to remain inconsistent. He assumes she will continue staying no matter how little effort he gives. But the moment she becomes strong, focused, and independent, everything shifts. He notices that she is no longer controlled by his mixed signals. He sees that her happiness no longer depends on his text, his mood, or his attention. That independence creates pressure because now he understands she can walk away at any moment. Confidence also changes how a woman carries herself physically and emotionally. She speaks with calmness instead of desperation. She stops competing with other women for attention because she understands that real value cannot be replaced easily. She focuses on becoming better instead of trying to convince someone to appreciate her. That self-growth naturally attracts respect because confidence is difficult to ignore. A man begins fearing the loss of a woman when he sees that other people recognize her value too. He notices her strength, her energy, and the peace she brings into every environment. Suddenly, he realizes that if he continues taking her for granted, someone else will appreciate what he failed to protect. That realization creates urgency because people often value things more when they realize they are not guaranteed forever. True confidence is not loud arrogance or pretending not to care. It is emotional security. It is the ability to remain calm even when situations become uncertain. A confident woman does not collapse when someone pulls away emotionally. She continues building her life, chasing her goals, and protecting her happiness. She understands that her worth does not decrease simply because someone fails to recognize it immediately. The moment you stop acting afraid to lose him is often the moment he begins fearing the possibility of losing you. Confidence shifts the balance completely because it reminds people that you are not desperate for love. You are choosing love from a place of strength, and that makes your presence far more valuable. A man will always be drawn toward a place where he feels peace, understanding, and emotional comfort. No matter how attractive someone is physically, constant negativity, emotional chaos, and unnecessary drama eventually become exhausting. People naturally move toward environments that make them feel calm, respected, and appreciated. That is why emotional energy plays such a powerful role in relationships. Many women believe keeping a man requires pressure, control, jealousy, or emotional games. They think constant arguments prove love, or that emotional reactions will force him to care more deeply. But in reality, too much emotional instability often pushes people away. A man may stay temporarily out of guilt, habit, or attachment, but deep emotional commitment grows strongest where there is peace. This does not mean a woman should ignore her feelings or stay silent when something hurts her. Healthy communication is important, but there is a major difference between expressing emotions with maturity and creating constant emotional conflict. A strong woman knows how to communicate her standards without losing control of herself. She does not scream to be understood. She speaks clearly, calmly, and confidently because she values her own emotional stability. Men remember how a woman makes them feel. They remember the woman who encouraged them during difficult moments, respected them without lowering herself, and created emotional safety instead of constant tension. Peace becomes rare in today's world, and the person who brings calm energy into someone's life becomes unforgettable. A peaceful woman is not weak. In fact, emotional control is one of the greatest forms of strength. It takes maturity to remain calm when emotions are high. It takes wisdom to choose self-respect over toxic reactions. A woman who controls her emotions instead of allowing emotions to control her naturally becomes more attractive because she radiates stability and confidence. When a man realizes your presence brings him emotional balance instead of stress, he begins valuing you differently. He notices that conversations with you feel comforting. He feels understood instead of constantly criticized. He feels motivated instead of emotionally drained. That kind of connection creates deeper attachment because everyone wants peace in a world full of pressure and confusion. At the same time, bringing peace does not mean tolerating disrespect. A peaceful woman still has standards, boundaries, and expectations. She simply understands that strength does not always need to be loud. Sometimes true power is remaining grounded while everyone else reacts emotionally. The woman who masters emotional balance becomes unforgettable because her energy feels rare. She creates an atmosphere where love feels safe instead of stressful. And when a man finds peace in your presence, he begins realizing that losing you would mean losing something difficult to replace. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is placing someone else on a pedestal while forgetting their own value. They begin treating the other person like the prize, constantly seeking approval, attention, and reassurance, while slowly abandoning their own self-respect in the process. The more they focus on being chosen, the more they forget that they also have the power to choose. That imbalance creates emotional weakness because it places all the control in the other person's hands. A woman becomes unforgettable the moment she realizes she is not an option waiting for validation. She is the prize. Her love, loyalty, energy, and presence are valuable. Not everyone deserves access to her heart simply because they show temporary interest. A high-value woman understands that commitment should be earned through consistency, honesty, and respect. Many women stay in painful situations because they fear being alone. They tolerate mixed signals, emotional neglect, and broken promises because they believe losing the relationship would mean losing their happiness. But true confidence begins when you stop attaching your worth to someone else's decision. Your value does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. Sometimes people are simply incapable of appreciating what they have in front of them. When you begin seeing yourself as the prize, your entire mindset changes. You stop overchasing. You stop begging for attention. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone's uncertainty. Instead, you begin raising your standards. You start asking yourself important questions. Does this person truly respect me? Do they bring peace into my life? Are their actions matching their words? That shift is powerful because it moves your focus away from fear and back towards self-worth. A woman who knows she is the prize carries herself differently. She no longer competes with other women because she understands that authenticity cannot be copied. She no longer tolerates half-hearted love because she knows real commitment does not require constant confusion. Her confidence becomes attractive because it is rooted in self-respect instead of desperation. People often value what feels rare and difficult to replace. When a man realizes you are no longer available for emotional games, he begins understanding your true worth. He notices your strength, your independence, and the peace you bring into every situation. Suddenly he sees that losing you would not just mean losing a relationship. It would mean losing someone genuinely valuable. Becoming the prize is not about arrogance or acting superior. It is about recognizing your own importance and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. It means understanding that love should add to your life, not destroy your confidence. The moment you fully believe in your own worth, everything changes. You stop accepting crumbs because you finally realize you deserve the entire table.